When life began, so did cancer.
Prehistoric animals have cancer. In humans, you can find signs of cancer in ancient specimens.
Physician and scientist Siddhartha Mukherjee calls cancer the Emperor of All Maladies in his Pulitzer Prize-winning History of the Disease. Around 400 BC, Hippocrates, the Greek physician known as the father of medicine, is said to have first given it a name, carcinos.
Why was it chosen? Why that word?
So the word comes from crab, and there was something about tumors as they sent their fingers or fingerlings into the body. They look like the legs of a crab sort of dug underneath the sand.
But the earliest reference to cancer can be found about 1,000 years earlier, here on this ancient Egyptian papyrus. As for treatment, it says, there is none. In fact, it's not until the arrival of anesthesia in the mid-19th century that surgery became a viable option.
Who would have thought you could open up a human body, take out an ovary that may have been involved with cancer, and sew that human being up again, and they would come back to life? This was an amazing advancement.
How many labs are there around the world doing cancer research?
Well, I would say hundreds. I mean, this building itself.
Mukherjee, who conducts research and treats patients at New York's Columbia University Medical Center, says by the beginning of the 20th century, X-ray technology would give rise to the very earliest form of radiation treatment. And the use of toxic chemicals to kill cancer cells, what's commonly called chemotherapy, was a 1940s development.
The dream was to invent a chemical that would kill the cancer cell but spare the normal cell. The problem is that cancers evolve out of normal cells. They are very close cousins.
This woman has cancer of the cervix.
Still, given that potential therapies were often as fearsome as the disease itself, a cancer diagnosis came to be cloaked in secrecy, even shame.
When my mother was surviving cancer, it was literally unspeakable.
Yeah.
What changed that?
You couldn't shove it under the carpet anymore. We saw our children dying from it. We saw our parents dying from it. It had to be a public word because otherwise we couldn't have a conversation. How can there be a war on something you can't name?
Which brings us to 1971, when President Richard Nixon did in fact declare war on cancer.
I sent a message to the Congress the first of this year, which provided for a national commitment for the conquest of cancer.
The war on cancer grew out of a particular optimism around cancer in the late 1960s, early 1970s. Remember, human beings had just walked on the moon. Why don't we cure cancer in 10 years? It was thought very doable.
It turns out that optimism was premature. Key was the realization that a patient's genes could, in effect, be calling the shots.
What tells a cell to stop growing or start growing in the first place? The idea that sitting at the center of the puzzle was genes, that was a huge leap because all of a sudden you had a framework to understand cancer.
Once researchers began to understand cancer's mechanism, more clues started to fall into place. And the Human Genome Project, completed in 2003, led to development of still more treatments, among them individually targeted immunotherapy techniques.
And where are we in the timeline or the arc?
The problem remains, how do you target, how do you kill the cancer cell while sparing normal cells? That was a puzzle in 1920, it was a puzzle in 1970, it's a puzzle in 2017.
You have more tools now.
Many, many more tools.